worldwide on WPSLTV.com.
You are listening to WSTU, Stewart, Jupiter, and Indiantown, Martin County's Heritage Station.
It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Welcome back to the second half of the Casey Ingram Show on Wednesday. We have two final interviews for Meet Your Candidate, and the first one was for Indiantown. We just finished up with all our Indiantown candidates, and now in the studio it's my pleasure to have incumbent Stacey Hetherington running for Martin County Board of Commissioners again. So
nice to be here again.
It's always wonderful to have you in here, and you are a repeat visitor. Before we get into our interview with Stacey, I want to remind everybody we can't take phone calls for the interview candidates, but I am watching Facebook, and you can comment on the Facebook Live, and I'll be happy to share those comments with Stacey. Also, I want to thank Indiantown Marina. It is one of South Florida's best boat storage facilities inland on the Okeechobee Waterway. Very well protected hurricane hole, and I say it all the time, folks. It's hurricane season. Reserve your spots now, because once a hurricane is named, I can pretty much tell you it will be just about impossible to find a place anywhere in this town. So have peace of mind. Call them up at 631-3272. That is 772-631-3272. And also it's a do-it-yourself full-service boat yard, so if you need any work that needs to be done, that's the time to do it. Also, visit the Fish House Art Center. It's down in the pocket in Port Salerno. A lot of fun. You can look it up online, thefishhouseartcenter.com, before you head out there. They're doing renovations, but they're still open right now. A lot of things for the entire family. You rent boats, not boats, but you can rent paddle boards and bicycles. It has an Airbnb art gallery. It does have a marina there if you want to come by boat. And, of course, one of my favorites, craft beers, wine, and 24 flavors of ice cream. So there really is something there for the whole family. So now we'll go in here with Stacey. Stacey is a third-generation Martin County native, proud to be raising her family in this beautiful community. Stacey is very passionate about her hometown, and as the District 2 County Commissioner, Stacey has dedicated countless hours and resources to protect the local environment and strengthen Martin County's economic viability. Stacey wants her sons to be able to have a strong future and be fortunate enough to experience the beautiful Martin County she grew up in. For these reasons, Stacey is running for re-election to continue her service as your District 2 County Commissioner with balance and integrity. Stacey says, "You have entrusted me to serve you the last 3 years as your County Commissioner, and I would like to continue to serve you." Stacey, welcome back to the show.
Thanks. It's nice to be back here,
Oh,
Casey.
it's always
I appreciate it.
fun time.
Especially
Appreciate
during
it.
campaign season.
Yes, of course, I know it. It always is. So how's it going?
It's going good. We launched our campaign back in April, but honestly, we've been doing the same things that we've been doing for our residents for the last 4 years. Working in our neighborhoods, working on solving our water problems, working within the district, and working on larger policy issues throughout the county. So that doesn't stop, whether it is re-election season or not.
There is always something going on, and you're right. Even during election season, work continues as always. So you've been out there. We're going to talk a little bit about your accomplishments as we go through the show. But last week I had your opponent on, and it was kind of one of these things where the opponent last minute came in, and that's fine. That's you got a deadline to file. So he did come in, but he came in with some pretty strong accusations about corruption, Stacey. When I had him in here, I said, please define that for me, because I'm not really clear where the corruption is. And I said, I'm going to ask you this week about it, because I didn't get a clear answer from him where the corruption is. He talked about you hiring somebody, a Rocky Pennington, I think his name, for flyers and mailers, and then you also received a mortgage loan from the person. Again, I'm going to let you just clear this up. I don't know where the corruption is. I don't understand. So you tell me what the business
Sure. First of all, competition is healthy. So it's always nice to have, competition in a race. So I do have an opponent. He did file on the very last day. We worked, and I qualified my petition, meaning I went out and signed the petitions, and by qualifying at the last minute, my opponent had to pay the filing fee, which is about $4,100 for our race.
Okay.
So he had to figure out where he was going to get that money from and pay that filing fee. So I think his main, watching your show last week was that he doesn't like the fact that campaigns are funded by contributors, which is perfectly by law. I can collect $5 from you. I can collect at the most $1,000 from someone else. And those campaign contributions, and some people don't like the way campaigns are run, but in the world, that is the way they're done.
Right.
And until that changes somewhere from the federal to the local level, that's the way they're done. You spend those contributions on your messaging to get reelected. They could be flyers, media, TV, digital. And
I'm getting
exactly
text.
what I text.
Right.
My opponent sent a pretty ugly text out about me that I received, and I haven't even seen that be transparent and reported. But you can use those campaign contributions for whatever you want to use them for, and whatever provider. Some people say you should use a local provider. Some people don't like that you have someone from Tallahassee because that seems to them to be more lobby. Well, he's just the Mr. Pennington is just a campaign consultant. So we are friends, and his wife and I are friends, and should it not be that I am entitled to live my life the same way as an unelected if it doesn't interfere with decisions for you? So I can get a loan from Seacoast for a property, I can get a loan from my family, I can get a loan from a friend, as long as it's properly reported and transparent. And that has always been the case, because one thing about elected officials, everything you do is on a piece of paper somewhere, and it's very, very transparent.
That's right.
And that's what people should know, is that everything we do is transparent. But of course, we lead a life, just because you're elected, just like you. We get mortgages. We buy cars. We have businesses or we have clients. That just has to be reported, and it has to be transparent and ethical, and I've always been that way.
Well, it was reported. That's how it was found, right? So.
Exactly.
And it isn't unusual at all to get a private mortgage. I've gotten them myself, not through a bank as well. There's various methods to get mortgages. So, Jason Bennett, what about all the contractors and builders that you're getting money from?
As far as campaign contributions?
Yes.
So I take campaign contributions. I have some from dentists. I have a $1,000 contribution from a dentist. I have $5 contributions and $10 contributions. I have some contractors. That's because I had previously, in a portion of my life, worked with some contractors. So what is people that support you and they believe in you are going to support your campaign. So it could be $5, it could be $1,000, and they could be dentists, friends, families. They could live in Tennessee, they could live here, or they could be prior work acquaintances,
right,
because they believe in you.
Right, and this is you are state committee woman, but beside that, this is your first elected office, correct?
So I'm running for re-election, for my first
this
county
commission was your
office.
first time to be elected. So you've had a career prior to being a county commissioner, is
correct.
What I'm getting at.
And I've also had a career as being a fundraiser for different nonprofits. Healthy Start Coalition. I worked on their Dancing with the Stars.
I remember.
And raised a lot of money for them. Over $30,000
You
in
got
a
the
couple
Globe,
of
didn't
months.
you?
I did.
I
I
can't
won
remember
the
what they call
Globe,
it. But
and
right.
I ended up being a very good fundraiser, and that again had nothing to do with a political race. That was going to our friends and your supporters and saying, I believe in this cause of Healthy Start, and will you support me? And within a matter of months, I had $32,000 raised and was the highest fundraiser. So I don't know why, but knock on wood, I guess I'm a good fundraiser.
It's a good thing in this world, and I know a lot of nonprofits would like to knock on your door for that. So, Stacey, let's talk a little bit about your accomplishments in the last 4 years. What are you most proud of in the last 4 years that you have accomplished?
Well, some things with water quality. We have put together a team at the county for LOSIM, the Lake Okeechobee System Operating Manual, because our goal has always been zero discharges here in Martin County.
Amen.
If you remember the summers of 18 and 16 where we had all the blue-green algae, we don't want to ever see that again. So we have put a lot of time, effort, and money and a really good team together at the county to go to Tallahassee and to work with the Army Corps to advocate for a schedule of zero releases. We didn't get this schedule with quite zero releases. We got a really good schedule. We've also put 10,000. We put a goal of taking 10,000 septic tanks offline in 10 years. and the board, me specifically sitting on there, we funded that through $4 million a year out of the board funding. And then I have gone to Tallahassee myself and brought home a couple $1 million from my neighborhood of Golden Gate to get them off of septic to sewer grants. This year, I'm going to Tallahassee to get $8 million for Coral Gardens to get them off of septic to sewer, and we have our projects ready. And so those are some of the water quality issues, and that we have, and been very, very, very productive. There was a neighborhood in Monterey subdivision. This one's one nobody would know about. They had contaminated wells. This is a very low-income neighborhood. They were not emailing the commission. They were not writing letters to the editor. It was a problem. The health department said, we've got to do something. I went and I met with the DEP, got them on board. City of Stuart had the sewer connection.
Right.
Within 18 months, those people that had the contaminated wells, now they were on bottles of drinking water.
Oh, I didn't know it was that bad. Wow.
They were off of those contaminated wells and on to septic to sewer. And the DEP, Trina at DEP, said, this is the best working team I have seen collaborating between you putting together with Martin County staff and City of Stuart. And it was amazing for those people, again, people that really did not even have a voice in government.
Stacy, that is amazing. I'm very passionate about the water as well. And there are so many issues with our septic systems leaking in. This is in our own backyard, leaking into the river. And it's devastating for the community. So amen to the goal to getting everything converted over to a sewer. And I had no idea that happened in that neighborhood. That's something you got to be out in the community.
I thought it was a shining example because we all know that bureaucracy works slow sometimes, and that was a shining example. And by the way, the 10,000 septic tanks, they are prioritized for those that are most either the preference is those that are near the water bodies or contributing to the water bodies.
Another question, this is a big one around the area right now. Will you follow the county's comp plan?
The comp plan has been there for, 1982, and it's been a guide, and it's been a good guide, and there are some really wonderful things in there. We never want to destroy our 4-story height limit. That is in there. The levels of service. Sometimes, if anybody's ever read the comp plan, it's about this big. It's great nighttime reading.
Right.
God bless them if they have. It outlines levels of service, and some people would be surprised to say, gosh, in this comp plan, it says that a level of service of a C or D on a road is okay. And to me, I think that it should be more of a, C or a B, but all that takes dollars. So I have followed the comp plan. We know that, in long-term planning, there's probably going to be things that will be changed. I've seen them over the last 8 years with various boards. Things had to be changed.
Right.
But what we need to keep in mind is what are the priorities of our community, and how do we want to look in 40 years from now? And to me, that's most important, because I had the really privilege of growing up here and enjoying the beauty, and I don't want to see that disappear. I want to see my kids have that. So I want to see our 4-story height limit maintained. I want to see, not high density sprawl, but I want to see also us concentrate on preservation. We need to concentrate on preservation if we don't want to have some of these other things. And Martin County in the past has done a pretty good job on preservation.
Conservation and preservation is extremely important here. And that's something that I think makes Martin County a little bit greener than our surrounding communities. So
you could see a map, and it's, all laid out on pink. We have some really nice preservation, conservation areas in Martin County that do set us apart. And I've got my eye on a couple other ones that I think if we picked up, we could have a nice wildlife corridor, and that would be very protective.
That's so important. These stories, this is, that have come into the news lately with all the black bears around. That's what I'm thinking. Those poor things have nowhere to go. So
I know. I
had
just
large
recently heard about
space.
the black bears.
Yes, I know they seem to be really showing up. It just shows there's building going on, and they're coming out of their
I haven't
habitats.
seen any in downtown Stuart, but I keep my dog close by now.
Yes, I haven't either, thank goodness. But Stacy, another question that came up was about the fire rescue contracts, the department contracts. your opponent had advocated for a professional negotiator to come in and handle the contracts. What do you think about that as opposed to the 5-person commission handling the contract?
So, okay, so the 5-person commission doesn't really handle the negotiation of the contract. We would approve them and, of course, go into shade meetings to discuss them. But I don't see anything wrong with having a negotiator or a third-party negotiator. I see that there's a place for that, and then sometimes there's a place for administration. So we've done both in the past. I know they had a third-party negotiator years ago, and I'll tell you some things about that is third-party they want a bottom line. Here's the bottom line, and it's really helpful to get you to that bottom line. But they don't care how you get there. So one thing I see concerning, and prior to me being on the board, we had some major problems where there were no contract. 9 years, the employees went with no contract.
Wow.
Okay, so whether they couldn't reach a negotiation, and there was a third party negotiator involved in that. 9 years, these members, right, of the fire department went with zero contract, just going to work day to day, did not know what would happen next year. We lost a lot of firefighters. We lost over 60 fire medics. Cost at least $70,000 per medic, right, to train them. We lost 60, and guess what that does to your department? You're losing training. You're losing people. You're spending millions in dollars in overtime. Millions now because you don't have the workforce. So when we're negotiating, we have to keep in mind the whole picture. I like to point out the negotiation that our administration recently did, or fire administration, with Lifestar. Lifestar, they changed the financial model of that, and that was within, just fire rescue administration and the county administration, and they saved $9 million over a 7-year contract just by changing that Lifestar contract financial model. So there's a $9 million savings over 7 years because our own people could identify where we could be doing something better. So I want to have our own people, administration, identify that we need to keep our trained staff because we lose dollars and we lose a level of service, and the residents don't want a decreased level of service. So it's important, and it has to be looked at holistic. There might be time for a negotiator, and there might be times that one is not necessarily appropriate.
I didn't realize myself that, we were training so many of our fire personnel basically for other communities. And that is a very expensive way to handle fire rescue because, as you said, it takes a lot of money to train them and get them up to speed, and then they leave for greener pastures
No
elsewhere.
private business would ever want to do that
No.
either. Hire employees, train them, outfit them very expensively, and then see them move on.
Right.
We don't want to do that.
And Jason, you're right. They moved on for better pay, and that's where the negotiations have to be.
And we know that Martin County will never pay the most.
Yep.
We don't want to pay the least. We want to be a quality department and be somewhere that is fair and balanced.
What's fair for Martin County?
And that's what I try to do, is be fair and balanced and provide the level of service that residents expect.
And that's what we're looking for. Stacy, how do you communicate with your constituents? How do you know what's out there? I mean, I don't even know how you found out the ones in I think you said Golden Gate with the septic issues. How are you, what's your policy to reach out to these people?
One thing I pride myself on as a commissioner, because I'm a former public relations, community affairs person, is communication. Both inside the building, communicating what we're doing, what is coming up, transparency. I had the county, one of my priorities was to start an app so people will have more access to our agendas and what is coming up. And we have that app, Martin Gov, up and running now, but I communicate with them on the ground. First of all, we have, community meetings. That way I know what are their problems with traffic calming and speed issues. And I do that in every pocket, South River and Golden Gate and St. Lucie Boulevard. We have town hall meetings. I have a newsletter that goes out to each of them and my entire district. And I pick up the phone, and I go visit them. And if somebody has a problem, they have drainage, I go and stand in their driveway, and I look at what their problems are. And that's one thing the TC Palm endorsed me. And one of their comments was that I have been very responsive to the needs of my constituents.
Another question here. How do you plan on controlling growth? They commented many of your donors are realtors.
Yeah, well, I'm a realtor myself, right? So I have acquaintances that are realtors. And so, again, that goes back to you're supported by people that believe in you. I also know a bunch of realtors that do not want to see any more growth. So, control growth is about good planning. Good planning, good decision making, and the growth you see happening today, people realize these were things that were approved not yesterday, months and months and months, if not years ago. Some of the projects coming out of the ground now were probably approved 10 years ago. So my focus is what my decision that I'm making today, I want to make a good decision so what in 10 years from now, this is a quality project. We know we can't stop growth. We know we can plan for it. We know we can say no when things are asked of us that we don't believe in or doesn't follow our comp plan or is not in line with the vision. But it's about a vision and how we're going to play out that vision in the next 20 years. And people are right. I can't go backwards.
No, you can't.
And I can't, redo the decisions that have been done. And it doesn't matter if we've had a no growth commission, was so-called no growth commission majority, and we've had a pro-growth. The growth rate had been the same pretty much
all the way through. And I think something else people need to just look at real quick is the boundary line of the city of Stuart and the county. I follow the emails that come in through your email system, and so many people blame you commissioners for growth that's happening within the city, but you have no say within the city limits. So just look at those boundaries and where things are being built. If it's within the city limits, you don't have a say.
It's confusing to people because we do not have any jurisdiction whatsoever on projects being approved, and people are always kind of confused when they see all the way up to Jensen Beach Boulevard, that had been annexed in by the city,
right? And
they don't think that fit, and they think of the city as this central downtown area. I have in my district all the way down practically by Walmart and off Federal Highway that was annexed by the city. Now, one thing I can do and have done is go to the city and say, they were going to put traffic through Coral Gardens as a part of that multifamily development. And I said, no, you're not. You are not going to impact my unincorporated residents with all of the traffic from this multifamily. You're going to have to put it somewhere else on your land. You are not sending it through our county streets that already, I told you, need septic to sewer, and they need some drainage issues.
Yeah.
So I went and fought for those residents, and guess what? That road did not go through that neighborhood.
Makes all the difference. Have somebody there at the helm that can fight for the residents. Stacy, the traffic, that's probably the other thing that's talked about so much through the community. Everybody's going, oh, there's so much traffic, because we have a lot of people moving here up from Miami and down from the Northeast. As a commissioner, what can the county commission do about this increase in traffic in our infrastructure as it currently stands?
I think planning as it stands, it's very difficult when decisions are made, prior to, and they don't take into account traffic. If you think about this intersection of Colorado, if you're trying to go north from Canner on US 1, it's probably one of the worst intersections in the central area. Now, had there been more right-of-way...
Especially, I think Brightline is working on confusion corners now, too. So,
had they had more right-of-way, that intersection could have been retrofitted to have a better flow. But when the gas station was approved, the city didn't take enough right-of-way. So that has to do with, you really have to be conscientious of planning whenever you're doing these things. So when we have new developments, on Cove Road, it's imperative that we look at it holistically as far as how are we going to manage the traffic on there. And furthermore, when I look at things, developers want to come in on a certain street that I know is already overcrowded,
Right.
then to me, that is a no.
You know, and one thing that's tough, Stacy, is out there on Murphy Road. You have Becker Road in St. Lucie County that it has exploded with development and housing, and that's bringing more traffic into Martin County. We can't do anything about it. It's just happening. So now you have these things to deal with, too. And Murphy Road is pretty residential through there, but it's a 2-lane road, and I know the commission is trying to deal with the traffic with traffic calming areas, and I think they put a light in.
Right, because you've got a number of vehicles coming from over the county line. We do have regional, transportation planning meetings, but I would say Martin County is by far the most conservative, as far
Definitely.
as and slow growth. So we sit at the table and we argue our points, and sometimes the other cities and municipalities don't necessarily see our point of view.
That's very true. And they have different comp plans and different visions. So I think St. Lucie County just expanded by 30,000 acres for development.
Right.
So it's a whole
In their
different
rural
world.
area.
Yes, in their rural area. Somebody brought up here, she just wanted you to talk about how the county handled business closing, lockdown, and masks back in the day.
Sure. Well, that was certainly a tricky time in 2020 and ever evolving. I think we had a team of scientists and advocates and people on each side. My particular position on that, and everybody on the board was different depending on where they came from in life, was to let people make their choice. We did have a mask mandate for a week. I pushed back and I was trying to take out, I remember sitting there looking at the documents and the ordinance, so this doesn't look good, take out these fines. And so I pushed back on that. I believe the next week I said, you know what, this does not make sense. I'm going to make a motion to completely end this mask thing. Well, that ended with zero support. So that the masks were in there. Now, as far as the beaches and law, when the sheriff and law enforcement, now I'm not an advocate of ever closing the beach. I love the beach. I love
Right,
the waterways. Right. And when Miami-Dade, Broward, and Palm Beach were closed, and law enforcement said, "Hey, we've got a problem. We've got a safety
because they were all
problem."
coming up here.
Yes, we're and I specifically drove out there, and that. The beaches did end up getting closed for a holiday weekend, and that was a law enforcement safety
Request.
problem. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. That's something to point out. People don't realize that because beaches are just open in the sunshine, but you didn't think about, the residents to the south of us is 4 or 5 million. We're 160,000 population county.
There were people running across the road. There were people that were almost hit by cars. And when our law enforcement says we don't have the people to control this, now you don't know what can happen. That is when I said, okay, the law enforcement, I will heed to your advice based on that.
Stacy, there's been a lot of comments I haven't been able to get to on my Facebook, but you can certainly look at those a little bit later. But we're winding down. We have about 3 minutes left. So I want you to reach out to people. How do they reach you? How can they support you? When can they meet you next? I appreciate you coming on here so we can listen to you. But
yeah, well, we're going to be continuing a campaign and sign wave. And, do we have a meet and greet tomorrow in Marin or Sand? And you can find all that information on hetheringtonformartin.com. And, really, I'm just going to keep sharing my message of a proven track record. I've been endorsed by just about every organization now. I've been endorsed by TC Palm, Stuart News, the Police Benevolent Association, the Fire Rescue, the Treasure Coast Realtors, AGC. So we will have lots more sign wavings and meet and greets, but you could go to Hetherington for Martin, and there's a spot on the very bottom of that website where you can sign up.
And don't forget, I just went to a fundraiser for you that you're endorsed by Dan Bongino as well.
Yes,
So,
Dan Bongino just put out an endorsement as well.
Real strong endorser. Okay, Stacy Hetherington, so nice to have you back in the studio running for re-election, District 2 County Commission. Thank you, Stacy.
Thanks for having me.